have a lot of people who do not like wrestling like me. They buy merchandise and they will buy tickets to come to the shows to see me.
You go from indie wrestler to this.
Being able to trickle into that version of me was more comfortable and suiting.
You don't just trickle into putting makeup on.
No.
That's a big line you cross.
Yes.
2020 into 2021, you were everywhere.
Just constantly putting my name out there. And
So much popularity that AEW couldn't ignore you.
But yeah, it snowballed from there.
What exactly happens when Danhausen curses someone?
Hopefully they're superstitious enough to where something happens to work for them.
Have you cursed MJF?
Not on screen.
You should.
He does deserve it.
What's the dream match?
I really, really wish.
We have blown the budget for the entire year for this extremely expensive CGI.
Well, I appreciate you didn't just use AI.
CGI to have you in your human makeup.
Yeah.
So good to see you again.
You too. It's been what, 4 years?
Been a long time.
4 years via Zoom, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe during the pandemic era.
Just not the same.
Or before, I don't know.
I know, it was definitely during.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
No, in studio.
But the CGI has gotten even better. Like, look
Full
how
body CGI.
look how good you look. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Do you get recognized out of makeup?
If it's a wrestling event.
Okay.
If it's a wrestling event, yes. I've been actually recognized once at a GNC because it was literally, this is going to sound like a lie. I walked in, the guy said hello, and I went, hello. And then he went, Danhausen? And I went, what? And he goes, I recognize the voice. And it was like, what? I was so caught off guard. And he was just like, how?
Do you think your real voice sounds that much like Danhausen?
I don't. I think it's, there's hints of it there,
Sure.
especially now. It's kind of like the Simpsons effect, sort of, where like Dan Castellaneta sounded much different in the earlier episodes where he was doing the voice.
Yeah.
And now I feel like he probably just sounds more like himself doing the voice. So it's probably morphed a little bit into just being me. But he's like, oh, no, I study voice acting. And I was like, he knew like instantly. It was crazy. Like I didn't have a full sentence with him or anything. It was just, hello. And then he had to have been a wrestling fan, obviously.
Sure.
So like there was already, I guess, that. But yeah, it was just weird. Just
If
in
you
Michigan.
If you wear something like this, you might get recognized for your tattoos.
Maybe. But yeah, I think I was just dressed like normal. I probably had a hoodie on. I think it was winter. So I probably had a coat on, actually.
Then did you just immediately snap into Danhausen voice?
No. It gives me anxiety. I don't like to make other people uncomfortable as much as that character, like, I do it. So whenever I have to do like a public thing, I try to be very mindful of everybody because I don't want them to have a bad time, make them feel weird that we're doing something. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Like,
I don't know.
Everybody loves Danhausen.
But this is true.
Yeah.
He's definitely not polarizing.
Love that Danhausen. No, but like you doing the voice for someone who's a fan, they'd probably be like, this is amazing.
Well, I feel very weird doing the voice when I'm not in the thing. If I'm not in the makeup and I do the voice, I hate it. I've done it because I've had to do some voiceover stuff, like just where like for, AEW video game or whatever, like, and it's still a little weird. I actually think I probably had makeup on during that because it was just whatever. Like I was getting ready for the day anyway. But I've done some of the voice stuff without it. And I'm just like, it feels wrong. I don't like it.
It's almost like putting on a mask
Can
become that character.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't know if we had touched on this in the first time we talked, but a very bad stage fright, like for anything, like like speaking in public, when you'd have to write papers in school and go to the front of the class, I'd be shaking. So like, it is kind of like wearing a mask for me, and it's helped me just be able to do public things much better, public speaking and everything.
I know you love The Simpsons, so when you're told or asked to do the voice, does it feel like the Bart Simpson, like,
do the line, Bart?
I didn't do it.
Yes, sometimes yes, especially if it's I'll get it sometimes where like if I'm doing a meet and greet, I don't unless it's little kids, I don't really do the voice, like because I'm talking to adults, and it's also usually for a Comic-Con where I'm there for a long time. I can't do the voice for 8 hours straight. I won't have a voice for TV or like videos or whatever. So like sometimes people just walk up and do the voice, and I'm just like, no. this also, that's not like a polite way to ask that.
You should just then curse them.
Usually they'll be like, well, can I at least get cursed? And I'll do that,
Then they've been cursed though.
Like I can do the voice. It's just like don't just come up to me and say, do the line, Bart. Like it's weird.
I didn't do it.
Makes me feel really weird immediately.
Does it strain your voice?
A little bit, yes. So if I'm doing like cameos for a long time, like Christmas time or Halloween, like I usually have a lot like of extra ones. I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
What?
At a certain point, like it starts to make me nauseous almost. I think I'm projecting from like I should probably take classes, which I think you've sent me things before, which I probably forgot to read, but I remembered right now. But there's probably techniques to not feel that way. But yeah, I think it's because I'm projecting from like the back of my throat
Instead of your diaphragm.
probably.
Right. That's a whole thing, right?
Yeah, and it just eventually makes me feel nauseous, and
Yeah.
I could start to lose my voice, but
Just have a chat with Justin Roberts.
yeah,
The way that he works his voice and somehow never loses it.
yeah,
He clearly knows what he's doing.
yeah.
So I don't know.
This is why I also save the voice for just TV things and video things, because like if I do my videos or whatever for Patreon or YouTube or whatever, like it's generally treated like a full work day, where it's like, no, we're gonna be filming for like 8 hours, so that's a day where I need to do the voice for realistically not 8 hours, but multiple hours. So
do you love that Danhausen?
I do. I have to at this point.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. I enjoy doing it still. Yeah. So I feel like it could very easily not be fun or be turned into something that's like a chore. And sometimes it is. And then I just have to remember like old jobs that I had, like where I go, I just have to put on makeup and make someone smile. Like that's so much nicer. And like, I don't want to say nicer because like I used to be a nursing assistant. So like do 12-hour shifts. They were very hard. Usually they were long. I'd work usually I've done like 12 days in a row of that stuff. And I try to remember those where I go, this is much, much, much more lax and easier. And I don't have to clean up puke or like bodily fluids.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is good.
I remember,
That was rewarding, but this is also rewarding.
I remember going to Ronin Pro Wrestling
Yeah.
in South Florida.
Yeah.
And you were Donovan Danhausen.
Yes.
Which was a completely different
I
character.
was Guy. Guy with beard and tattoos.
Guy with beard and tattoos.
But that was like the first, few years probably of me starting. So it was just, hey, go get reps in and wrestle people. And, without that, I don't think I would have gotten to where I was, obviously. Like, I feel like there's people who kind of got their character like almost immediately, like MJF, I think didn't take very long to get who he was. And then he just added to it because it's him. He's a jerk. So like
he's the worst.
He's the worst. So he just adds to being the worst constantly.
Yeah.
He just gets horrible and worse and worse and worse. Like I would see him, C4 Wrestling in Ottawa. And instead of selling merch, he would just sit at the merch table and yell at people. That's it. That's what he would do.
That's classic MJF.
That's also what he does at Comic-Cons, but now he's got a little bit longer line. So I think he mixes it up and takes some of the money. So,
but for you to go from that, call it generic indie wrestler to this, which popped off like crazy, there's a big jump from that. Like it didn't, I didn't see any of this Danhausen when I watched you in the ring back then.
No. That was very much serious trying to be ass kicker, man. And I'm not. It's just not who I am. I'm goofy. I like we talked about, I like watching The Simpsons. I like cartoons, comic books, horror movies, but like B horror movies too, where it's kind of goofy and tongue in cheek. And like, that's more of who I am. So like being able to slowly trickle into that version of me was much more comfortable and suiting.
But you don't just trickle into putting makeup on.
No,
like that's a big line you cross.
Yes. So that came from my dad because Halloween was very big in our house. He would do my makeup every single year. I'd be a zombie with glass out of my head. But he'd send me to school like this, I don't know, first and second grade, probably third grade. Like he'd do full makeup on me, send me to school, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's a little extreme, don't you think?" And I'd be like, "I'm a zombie." I don't know. My dad did my makeup.
That's awesome.
But he worked in haunted houses as I was growing up. So he's super artistic. He'd paint comic book stores and things like that. Like he'd paint the Hulk and Spawn and everything on the walls. He'd make my costumes like homemade. We did a Kane one year where he took a Jason mask and he painted it and melted it and used like hot glue and stuff because I don't think they were selling Kane masks at the time. So he took a sweatsuit and pleather and made me the red and black Kane suit. So there's a photo of that somewhere. I don't know.
What? My guy will find it.
Yeah.
He's the best.
It's been posted somewhere on Twitter and probably Instagram and everything. But there's that. There's the zombie. There's Dracula. Like that slowly just has always been in the back of my head. So that's always been there of wanting to do that.
Wow.
like the horror character or
Yeah.
including the horror stuff into it, but not knowing how because it's usually not great. There's like a few examples where it is. But generally it's always kind of like you're either the tough guy or you're the horror character or like, you know, whatever. Like, so yeah, that eventually got there.
We'll get right back to the conversation in just a second. Look, I know we're already a few weeks into the new year, and most people have already given up on their New Year's resolutions, but this can finally be the year where you look and feel your best and have more energy than ever before. Whatever your health goals are for 2025, this supplement can help because it supports your health at the foundation by encouraging cellular renewal. MitoPure is a precise dose of the rare postbiotic urolithin A. It works by promoting an essential cellular cleanup process that clears out dysfunctional mitochondria, which is better known as your cell's battery packs. MitoPure is the only urolithin A supplement on the market clinically proven to target the effects of age-related cellular decline. And with regular use, you'll see and feel the difference in the form of improved energy levels, better workouts, faster recovery, more endurance, and lots more. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. And Timeline is offering 10% off MitoPure when you go to timeline.com/insight. That's timeline.com/insight.
But what made you go, what I'm doing on the Indies isn't working. I'm going to do a massive right turn here and try something else.
That was, without naming names, I was doing like weekly indies and making no money. I was working, I think, at Starbucks at the time. So I was doing 5 a.m. shifts. So I was waking up at like 4 or whatever, and getting to work 5 a.m. to 1 p.m., driving 3 or 3.5 hours every week to the independent place or whatever, and wrestling. And it was fine. I was getting reps and stuff, but I was getting like beat up. I wasn't making any money at the time. Like I didn't have the characters. Still wasn't. I was selling a couple t-shirts here and there, but I remember it was just like months and months and months of that after years and years and years of like the Ronins and all that and like fest wrestling and traveling around to Texas and everywhere, St. Louis. So during this one, just one of the shows I had gotten, was it the kitchen sink where they kick you in the stomach, you flip over? But I think it for real got kicked in the ribs, flipped over, and I landed on my knees, and then I was going to get kicked in the chest. And like, it's fully open, and I got kicked straight in the throat, like as hard as humanly possible. And I just rolled out of the ring, and I was like, this fucking sucks. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I know our truth said hell on here.
So you said a lot of things.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep moving too. That was one of the, it was just like building, but that was like the catalyst of, I went, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. Because I was also like, I thought I'd crushed my larynx because it was like, it was bad. I was like, I should maybe go to the hospital. I don't know. I grabbed my stuff and I went in my car and I just sat there for a second. And I was like, I'm going to drive home. I'm not coming back here. I have to figure something out because I want to quit wrestling right now.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, I think it was Supgraps in Tennessee was like, hey, come do whatever you want. Like Kevin Koo helped run it from Violence is Forever. And it was Jesse, his name's Righteous Jesse. I don't know his last name. I can't remember. He has a VHS store in Nashville now though. Hey. But they were just like, yeah, do it's a Halloween show. Do whatever you want. So I did the They Live makeup. Which I just watched some guy do a tutorial on YouTube and I just copied it, which I learned again from my dad, was just watching him do makeup all the time. And I was like, I can draw kind of, like, I'm not great, but like I can look at something and I can kind of recreate it. Not easily, but I can do that fairly well. So that's what I did with makeup. And then I just did that. And I was like, well, this I can't make money off of because it's John Carpenter's.
Yeah.
Like They Live makeup. But it's a fun Halloween makeup. So I did that. And then I went back to doing normal Danhausen a little bit here and there. And I was like, this doesn't feel the same. Like this kind of sucks still. Like doesn't feel right. And then I think it was Jimmy Jacobs at an AEW seminar was just like, why don't you just do your makeup more? Or like all the time. He's like, I watched you do it. You seemed very comfortable. And then I watched you not do it again for a few shows after that, like just clips or whatever. And it's like, you don't look like you're in your own skin. And I was like, okay. And then I started doing it more and more and more and more and started getting more comfortable with it. So, but that was the horror serious version. So that had to develop more, but that lasted for a little while.
I can tell that you've been wearing the makeup recently because it's in your ears.
Yeah, it's in my ears. It's always in my ears. It's always in my eyes. I had it on last night at a show.
What's the key? Just makeup wipes?
Yeah, and then shower, and then it's still in my ears,
Yeah,
in
it's in
here, it's in
your
here,
ears.
it's probably inside of my skull at this point.
It doesn't seem to get off on your opponents as much as like Sting's makeup.
No, so I think he uses acrylic, which is like normal painting.
You use latex?
So I use wolf makeup, which is like a theater-based, water-based makeup.
Oh.
I think it's just like a higher quality so it doesn't come off. But if it's like sauna hot in the arena or wherever we're at in the hall or the gym or wherever I'm at that week, like if it's sauna hot, it'll underneath get like sweaty. And then the moment someone like puts me in a headlock, it's just off. But only in that section though. Like it's not draining down my face.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
like when Sting would wrestle people, like it'd be all over
his
there.
would peel off
Yeah.
a little bit.
Or
And
like,
then it would get on people.
yes,
Yeah.
you'd see it like if he was in a headlock, you'd see it on someone's arm or something like that.
Mine does that kind of, but like at the beginning of a match, if it's like in here where it's nice, it won't do that. Like you might get like a tiny, tiny bit, but like it comes off of the mat easily. It comes off of clothes and gear easily. So I think people will see it and go, "Oh, you're going to ruin my gear." And I go, "No, I'm not." That's why I use what I use, so it doesn't ruin anything.
I am a professional.
Yeah.
So the great thing about being Danhausen is you don't have to take the crazy bumps you were taking early on. Like that, that style of wrestling really like allows you to have a little bit more longevity.
Yes. And then you can kind of pick and choose your moments of like, oh, well, maybe for this match, because it's a pay-per-view match or it's a bigger match, like I can take those bumps. We can build a little bit more of something like, because for the most part, like if it's, an independent show, like I don't need to be bumping on the floor or like bumping on the apron or anything like that, or doing anything crazy. Even though like for GCW, I wrestled Cardona, and it was just like one of those things where it's like, you can see me kicking glass, actually like leftover glass out of the ring. Cause like, I don't want to get slammed on glass. This sucks. But like, it comes with the territory of some shows. So
Conan O'Brien possessed by a demon might be the best description of any inspiration for a wrestling character.
Which was awesome that I got to tell him that.
That's insane.
Which that leads into the, like we touched on a little bit, but the serious horror character, you could see, I could see that it was kind of getting a little bit more successful and it was selling more merch and whatever. And then it was kind of like hit a standstill. And I was like, okay, so this isn't it, but this is the right direction. And it was kind of like I think of it as like convention based too. Like if there's a horror convention, horror fans are only going to go to it. If it's an everything convention, there's something for everybody, like a comic book or just whatever general media convention. Like, so the horror is kind of too niche, I think, of just being only a horror character. And I think that's why Bray Wyatt worked better when he was the Fiend and, just Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Like, because he had best of both worlds. He had Pee-wee's Playhouse and he had horror movie stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, that's where you can get everybody because they go, oh, even if I don't like this, I love this part of it.
Sure.
So I like this character. And then you just generally probably wind up liking both. So that was like mixing in Conan O'Brien and Pee Wee Herman and Elvira in like movies like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, like Sam Raimi stuff. Just the B movie, weird horror, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, American Werewolf in London, like has humor in it, even though it's just a horror movie. But like mixing all of that and like The Simpsons and Mr. Burns and Krusty the Clown, like a lot of Krusty the Clown in what I do. My face is on everything. But mixing that stuff and then a nice way to describe it is just Conan O'Brien possessed by a demon.
Is that a nice thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's a genius.
Who wants to be possessed by a demon?
Well, I mean, if that demon makes money.
Man, you're very rich, right?
Yeah. Very rich, very evil.
And very nice.
Yeah, and very nice sometimes.
The interesting thing about Danhausen is when you look at the character, you can tell he's not like going to kill you. Like,
yes,
there's something that's
he might think he's going to though.
But there's something that's he's very nice.
Yeah,
and very evil. But if you were to just look at it, if you were to just look at the face paint, you'd go, that he seems kind of nice.
Well, that's why I'm always smiling.
That's it.
Because
it's quite a smile.
So that came from everybody's wrestling promo photos was always just them with their yelling face or like their tongue out or something. Like, so I was like, oh, you're supposed to smile in photos to look nice. So that's where that came from, is just that. And being told I smiled too much when I was wrestling. So then I turned it into a money-making thing.
It's brilliant.
I try to turn everything that was told not to do into something that makes me money, basically.
When did the momentum really start to build? When did the popularity still really start to be there?
I would say, so was scheduled to wrestle Effie, and that was when he was like first also like getting some notoriety, because we'd also done Florida Indies together just when we first started, like at Fest Wrestling. We wrestled, I think, every single show for some reason, which was 2015 or something around there, 2015, 2016. But we had Black Label Pro, and we were supposed to have like an 8-minute match or something, and they're like, sorry guys, people went long. You have, I think it was 4 minutes. And we're like, okay. And that's where I did the teeth for the first time. Cause I was like, well, if I could do this weird stuff that I kind of want to experiment with, like Effie's the guy to do that with. So that's why I was like, I used them like thumbtacks for that match, and I just poured them out. I think we did a superplex as the finish on the teeth. Yeah, I took that 4 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it was, and we got a little bit of buzz off of that because people were like, oh, teeth, that's weird. And then I just rolled with it and kept putting out stuff and more and more and more. Like, it's all like, I try to tell this to people like who are coming up and who have had some success. I'm like, you have to just continue with that momentum no matter what. Like, just roll with it. Like, keep it going up as much as humanly possible, because you don't know when it's going to end.
And I think you also need to remember that, especially when you're on the indies, the crowd that saw you in Illinois
is not
the same crowd that's seeing you in California or Florida.
No, you kind of have to pretend it's the first time anybody's seeing you every single time.
Yeah.
Unless, like, if it's somewhere like freelance wrestling, generally I know that their crowd knows who I am at this point. Like, I've done their shows so many times.
Sure.
That's a different story. But yeah, like last night in Atwater, California, like that's 4 hours from Los Angeles. They don't all know who I am.
Yeah.
So like, this is a show where you have to go, oh, well, this is me, and kind of give them not the greatest hits, but the greatest hits. Like, this is why I always look back at like the John Cena getting the 5 moves of doom thing. And it's like, yeah, that's genius.
Yeah.
That's what everyone should be doing, because each time you have to pretend like you have to do your thing so people know what your things are. So then eventually it does catch on everywhere. And that's just how it works.
It got to a point 2019, 2020 into 2021 where you were everywhere. And it was like you couldn't ignore how over you were and how popular you were.
So that Mania year, I was supposed to have, because it was my first Mania weekend that I was doing, where I was like, oh, cool, I'm finally at Mania weekend.
What city was that?
What was it supposed to be? It was 2020s.
Oh,
so,
it was 36 when it was supposed to be in Tampa.
Yes. And I was supposed to do 12 matches, I think, in 3 days or something like that. So I was going to be bouncing. I was going to probably have an hour break in between each, but I had different matches everywhere. Like, I think it was supposed to, oh man, I was supposed to put on the show with Warhorse, which is called Wrestlemania, which we booked as like a gimmick show, but also like we wanted to have good matches. So I think we were going to have Jake something versus Airwolf, who is Dante Martin, or Darius, or Dante, no, Airwolf. Which one was Airwolf? There was Lucha Angel and there was Airwolf. I don't know which ones they were. They had masks on. But it was going to wrestle like Jake something, and we were going to call him Werewolf. And I was like, just stupid things like that. It was going to, Warhorse was going to team with The Ascension, and I was going to team with Effie and Gangrel. And we're going to come out to the Brood music.
Oh, man.
Like, we're just going to have fun with it and just do things like that. I can't remember what the other matches were, but there was just like a bunch of just stuff like that on the show. And I think I was supposed to wrestle Gigi Dolan on a show. Like, I think I was going to wrestle on a death match show, but not do a death match. Like, I don't know. It was just, I was going to be everywhere. I was going to be at Fest Wrestling, teaming with like Jake something and doing some type of 6-man. So yeah, there was just all of that stuff, and then it just got taken away.
Yeah. Well,
which, you know, that it is what it is.
Yeah, and the world shut down and we had to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I still think that you had this momentum that it was like, it was too big to ignore. If you knew anything about wrestling, Danhausen was everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and it was just constantly putting my name out there. And this is the George Costanza where he leaves the pillow, I think, or he leaves something in that. The hat. And he says Costanza. And I was like, oh, I should just add Hausen to everything. And this is also my friends Nick and David, who helped me film everything, who I've been best friends with for like 10 years since I worked at a movie theater. I think he added Hausen to a Gangrel promo. He was just like, oh, you should say son of a bitch Hausen. And I was like, yeah, I should. And then he did it, and then that caught on, and I started just doing that more and more and more and more.
Would I be Chris Hausen?
Yeah. But then you get the people who don't know how to do it exactly, and they're just like, Chris Van Vliet Hausen. And I'm like, no, this is too much. This is just, you gotta only do it sometimes and give it to people's names, and sometimes they don't, I don't know. You just gotta feel it out.
The big game is right around the corner. Get in on the action at MyBookie. Yeah, they've got odds for the spread and the money line and the over-under. They've also got some really interesting props, like the coin toss. Is it going to be heads or tails? The length of the national anthem, is it going to be over or under 123.5 seconds? That is very specific. Also, what color is the Gatorade that's going to be poured on the winning coach? Look at those options. You can also get in on the action with WWE. They've got odds for Wrestlemania, the NHL, NBA, UFC, boxing, and everything else. And when you sign up using my code CVV, you'll get a 100% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere. Only at MyBookie.
But you had so much popularity that AEW couldn't ignore you. And there was so much... I feel like the fans were clamoring for this for a long time. When you finally came out and you finally debuted, it was huge.
Yeah, that was, I still had the broken leg too.
Yeah.
So that wasn't fun getting under the ring with the broken leg because it had broke 3 months before Halloween.
Did you get signed with the broken leg?
Yes. So I was signed with the broken leg. I'd been talking to them a little bit, like I would say within the last week or two before that. And then I showed up because I think I messaged Brody and was like, hey, you're kind of close. I'm just sitting at home with a broken leg. Am I able to come just say hello to people? And he goes, well, I'll ask. And I think that was just, yeah, that's fine. And then just, you go through the motion, you sign up just so they know who you are and everything. And yeah, I was there. I think that was the day where I think Cody he had asked me, he goes, hey, are you doing something tonight? And I was like, I'm not dressed as Danhausen at this point, and I'm probably in one of my boots or something. And I was like, I mean, I always have my stuff just in case. I was like, but I got a broken leg and I don't work here. So and I was like, I don't know. He goes, all right, well, let me know. We'll get you something if you're not. And I was like, oh,
wow.
So I think Cody was going to do something with the Sammy Guevara match, which I think wound up being his last match for the TNT title.
The crazy ladder match,
yes.
right?
So I think they were going to pull me out on a ladder. If the thing with Orange and Adam Cole didn't happen, he was just going to figure out a way to get me in his match to get me on. And I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. But we wound up doing the Adam Cole, Orange Cassidy spot, which was similar, but same thing. And all I could really do was, I was like, I could curse him. I can't really do anything. I can't run. I can kind of hobble around. So,
but what was great about it is the crowd instantly knew who you were,
which I was so relieved because you don't know. Like, yes, I'm popular on the indies, but like, and I'd done Ring of Honor, but like, you don't know what translates to where.
And this is before AEW owned Ring of Honor.
Yes, yeah. This was Ring of Honor had just shut down, probably like 3 or 4 months before. Because I think Ring of Honor shut down. Oh, wait, maybe they shut down in December. I think they did Final Battle, and then I think that might have been it. That might have been their last show.
And then you debuted in AEW
like a month later. Yeah. Because I had done commentary on Final Battle with a broken leg, and it sucked because I had to get up some stairs to get to the thing. I think I commentated a PCO match because I was teaming with him at the time. But then, again, broken leg. But yeah, so they just debuted there, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
But then there were so many great moments, like you curse William Regal.
Oh, and this is off air.
The crowd chants, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. I wish I had been able to do more with him on screen because he was also a guy I took a lot of my facial expressions from. I don't know if people ever, which I don't know why they don't, but like he's one of the best comedic wrestlers, like wherever he was. Like all of that stuff with Tajiri was fun. He's just making faces constantly. It's just, The match with the Big Show that I see the clip all the time now where he hits him with the brass knuckles and the Big Show falls back and then falls on him. It's just things like that. Like, I think guys like him and
He's a great straight man.
yes, he plays a great straight man, but he's also plays a great comedic heel.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Christian. Like, I remember I was in the gym and Christian walked in and it was like, I usually don't like want to bother people, but I was like, hey, can I ask you something? And it was like, I don't think get asked about this specifically, but like you are a great comedic heel who also could just win matches. And I was like, I think that's like the key is like, you have to be taken seriously when it's time to be taken seriously. But like he was tag team champions while he was putting giant sunglasses and hats and kazoos.
And doing 5-second poses.
But also he was like a legitimate tag team champion at the time.
That's true.
Like him and Edge. So like.
Yeah, Kurt Angle's in that same category.
Same category. Stone Cold Steve Austin is kind of in that same category. Put a tiny cowboy hat on. He's swimming in milk. Like I don't think like yes, Stone Cold Steve Austin is like the badass wrestler, but also like he is swimming in milk and beer and doing comedy things all of the time, and it's amazing. Same thing with The Rock. Like,
yeah, when Stone Cold would sing,
yes,
it was so funny.
Yes, and I just like I don't think people think of like how well rounded all of those like John Cena. It's The Rock. It's Stone Cold. It's Triple H. It's Shawn Michaels. Like they're all very comedic wrestlers, also.
Yeah,
and I think that's where like a lot of where it's like, oh, well, you know, comedy wrestling is bad, and like. If you took out the comedy from all of those, like a lot of their major moments wouldn't be around that you probably are fond. Like Stone Cold stunning Santa Claus is I remember that from childhood. Like that's one of my first memories of Stone Cold.
Yeah. A lot of the DX stuff.
Yes. It's all comedy based. Like
that spot where Triple H comes off the middle rope.
Yeah.
And he won't fall for whatever it is, a minute or something.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And it's like, this is all comedy based. Like, this is probably what more people connected with on a personal level is these guys being real human beings doing stuff like this versus like, no, you can't actually relate to hitting someone with a sledgehammer. You can relate to, you know what I mean? Like, no one's going around hitting people with sledgehammers.
Like ramming into people's heads.
That's probably not where they actually connected with a guy like Triple H. They probably connected with him from doing goofy things where you're like, oh, it's funny. I do that at home.
I connected with him because I wanted to spit water everywhere.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Just looked so cool. The flash bulbs are going off.
Yeah, he came out to Motorhead. It was cool.
All of his Motorhead themes are so cool.
Yes, the King of Kings was awesome.
Revolution.
Yes, yep.
I really like the 1-2. Is this on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my time.
Yeah. But like all of that stuff is, like I said, I feel like that's connecting. Like you connected with Stone Cold, or people connected with Stone Cold because he's beating up his boss.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason he got over.
Yeah. But then there's all the comedy stuff, the hitting him in the head with a bedpan. Like
hilarious.
Yeah.
What are the things people connect with you the most?
I think just being authentically weird. Because like I throw in these little bits of, you know, Conan and the Simpsons, but I make it my own thing in Pee-wee, and like obviously there's some stuff where I just do it, but like I think they go, oh, I liked that as a kid. Oh, this guy's doing all that weird stuff that I liked as a kid, or it's very similar, so like I'm connected to that now. Or the horror movie stuff, like you got the horror fans because they go, oh, his makeup looks like it's inspired by The Exorcist. Oh, well, it is. So then they go, oh, well, now I like you. There's even just stuff where they'll make connections that aren't necessarily there, but that's fine because they're connecting to something with me and that makes them happy.
But if you didn't tell me that you were inspired by Conan O'Brien, I never would have made that connection.
Ah, well, I got the hair. Like my hair is usually, if it's longer, I try to do a very shitty Conan O'Brien, like pompadour. And it's because, oh, he's a nice TV host looking guy. And that's what my guy is. Like,
so he was your guy in the era of Letterman and Leno.
Yes. So I used to like specifically,
so
I remember.
You had to stay up later for him.
Yes. And I remember, I want to say specifically on like summer breaks, I would be up later. So his show would just be on.
He came on at 12:35.
Yeah. And I would just be
late
watching that. Yeah. And I just remember what the year 2000 bits, like those were mostly what I remember constantly from that time. And it's just weird humor. It's like kind of adult humor, but also not. But it is. So it's weird. It falls under that Simpsons category or like the Space Ghost category or Elvira. Like it's not for children, but also children can enjoy it sort of because it's so goofy.
Yeah.
but it's got that weird mix of adult humor in it too. It's like the Batman the Animated Series cartoon. Like I can enjoy that as an adult as much as I did as a kid.
Yeah.
Because it's a nice mix.
You have so many like moments that could be just throwaway moments that end up like really turning into something. For example, the Ass Boys.
This is another David Davis, my assistant, on camera. Another thing he's like, oh yeah, because I think I was calling Billy Gunn Billy Ass or something.
Right. That's Bill Ass.
And he's like, yeah, he's Bill Ass.
Yeah,
and they're like,
that's his name.
Because he had Mr. Ass on his trunks. And I was like, so in my head, my character would think, oh, that's his last name is Ass. So these have to be Colten and Austin Ass. So they're his ass. And I think David goes, yeah, they're his little ass boys. And then I was just like, oh, that's great. So because we were on the cruise, the Jericho cruise together. And I'd asked them, I go, hey, would you care if I call you Billy Ass? Because I didn't really know Billy at the time. And I didn't know like Colten and Austin that well. Like I knew them a little bit. But on the cruise, I was not signed. So like they were just guys that I was working with on the cruise. And I was like, oh, this could be funny. Can I call you this? Because I don't want to offend anybody. Especially like Billy. Billy's a legend. Like I don't want to just call him Bill Ass and he'd be like, what are you doing? But they were all very cool with it. And like, I remember Billy saying, well, I don't know how to do funny stuff. And I'm like, he's one of the funniest guys like on TV when he's allowed, like doing that.
He's just a funny guy in general.
Yes. Yeah. He's also just he's incredible looking. The best looking guys on the roster.
It's so jacked.
Yes. He's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Ass Boys thing. So I believe I had found this out after. I guess Peter Avalon had called them Ass Boys on a dark at some point, but I hadn't seen it. But then I just rolled with it and made it a thing more. So like, I think technically he said it first.
Yes.
And then I just kept saying it and kept calling that and doing side YouTube videos with him. Like, I think I looked the other day and it's like one of my top 3 YouTube videos.
It got them so over.
Yeah, but they put in the work. Like,
sure,
they embraced the ass.
They were signing autographs like not Ass
Yes,
Boys.
I think that's still
so funny.
Austin or Colten. I don't know which one. I think that's still one of their Twitter handles is not Ass Boy. But yeah, like they took it and ran with it, and they're awesome. So like they were able to do something with that and then turn it into something else. And now they're with the Bullet Club Gold. So like, which they get to be entertaining in, which I think is one of their biggest strengths is that they're super entertaining. Juice Robinson, Jay White, they're all super entertaining.
What exactly happens when Danhausen curses someone?
Hopefully it works. I never know.
Like does their life just
so hopefully
they're
they're superstitious enough. I think so, maybe. Hopefully they're superstitious enough to where something happens to work for them.
Have you cursed MJF? Because you should.
Not on screen.
You should.
I stole his scarf off screen. That was at a Comic-Con.
Curse him.
I may have at New York Comic-Con done something with curse. I don't think I've cursed him though.
It's evident.
I agree. It probably needs to be done.
He deserves it.
He does deserve it.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
But do they feel it immediately?
It's an individual experience every single time.
William Regal seemed to feel it.
He seemed to feel it. He seemed to get electrocuted or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. And then I got yelled at by Brian Danielson to uncurse him. So that's why he was uncursed.
How did the torn pec happen?
That was the 310 to Yuma. Is that what I don't know what their move's called. I've got all this backwards. It's the Ass Boys finishing move, which is the pop-up flatliner.
Yeah. And
when I come down, I landed a little bit more like this instead of this. So like the way that I came down, it's also Colten lifts me, and then it's like a reverse rock bottom for people who don't maybe know.
Okay. Yeah.
And Austin is a thick boy. His chest is thick. So I don't know if it's a combination of me coming down half in a push-up position, but also ricocheting off of Austin while ricocheting off of this side of Colten. So I think it just landed weird because obviously a bunch of people have taken this move.
Yeah.
And they're fine. But yeah, I'd come down and it just, I think I watched it and it went like this and then this part snapped off.
Oh.
And I didn't know. I torn my pec because I thought when you tear your pec, it like Cody's.
Yeah.
And it didn't as far as I knew. I had gone to the back and we thought it was just a shoulder thing because they like tested my strength and all that. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't seem like you did anything serious to it because you're able to do a bunch of like presses and pushing and it was fine. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I just jammed my shoulder. And then the next morning I woke up and I think this whole piece was missing, but I didn't notice probably because it was swollen at the time or something like from immediately happening. Luckily, that was the finish of the match.
But it rolled up into your chest?
Just this little piece right here, I call it, it's like a wing.
Yeah.
Was just missing. So like instead of having this connecting my pec, it just went up and around. Buddy Matthews actually, he went, you missed your pec. In his Buddy Matthews.
You got a sweet scar now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Look at that.
Some of them look gross. This one looks okay.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Maybe you get to extend the tattoo and cover it.
I could. They were also very nice and didn't cut into anything.
That's true.
Yeah, they did that with my... I don't have tattoos on my leg, but they seem to try to go around people's tattoos.
Yeah, look, they did. They kind of like
they cut
right around your shoulder tattoo.
Yeah, no, that doctor was great. I actually went to my leg guy because the leg guy, someone just landed on my leg and broke it. Like this was just a weird pressing motion, like I said, and I didn't feel the snap. Like I've always heard that if you tear a muscle, you kind of feel a snap. And I just did it. It just hurt. And I was like, oh. And then I rolled over and I got pinned. And then I think I crawled out of the ring, which I probably shouldn't have done. But also that made me think nothing was actually like super wrong. I thought I just jammed my shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that happened.
Did your momentum,
the most devastating maneuver.
Did your momentum start to kind of slow down because of the injury?
No, not necessarily. I don't think, because I try to just make everything something. So like, I just kept doing videos from home. I kept doing comic book conventions. I think I still had a couple of like independent show appearances that I just did still. I think I probably just did some type of like general manager thing or managing something. Yeah, I just try to stay relevant and on still and still doing stuff. So that way I'm still in the public eye. Cause I always think if it's out of sight, out of mind. So no, I don't think I super lost it because also I think people just rallied around me again and wanted to support like anything I was doing. They're like, yeah, we'll just watch all of his stuff then.
Getting a great night's sleep is one of life's finest luxuries. You got to check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. They're inspired by NASA and they have silver infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Also, say goodbye to those gross odors. Because they're infused with silver, they prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, so that means you get fresher sheets up to 3 times longer. Miracle sheets are so comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and they feel just as good as sheets you'd have in a 5-star hotel. If you've tried everything else, try Miracle. Upgrade your sleep this year by going to trymiracle.com/CVV. And whether you're buying them for yourself or you're buying them as a gift for a loved one, you're already gonna save over 40% if you order today. But if you use the code CVV at checkout, you'll get an additional 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel kit. That's trymiracle.com/CVV.
It just wasn't explained when you weren't on AEW for all of 2024. I feel like there should have been some sort of...
So that wasn't this.
I know.
Okay.
After that.
Yeah.
But it feels like there should have been some sort of explanation as to like, all right, you're doing something else or I don't know. Just weren't there.
Yeah. That was, I did the Halloween 3 segments that I was like, I want to do something fun for Halloween. Like I can come back from this probably, I think it was fine in October, but it was still kind of like, give it another month. So I was like, well, we could air these Halloween 3 style, like annoying like commercials until I come back. And I was like, cool. And then it kind of just didn't happen. So I think that kind of like sucked the air out of the return a little bit. In my opinion, at least for me, it did. We're just like, like it was built for Halloween. And then I could have came back the next week and I just didn't. And then it took a little bit more time. And then I think I did come back on Thanksgiving. So it was like 3 or 4 weeks later. But I come out and like, I want to wrestle because I don't know if non-wrestlers might not know this. Wrestling hurts, but it also hurts less if you do it more. So like your body gets callous to it, I guess. So if you're wrestling like once every like couple months or once every other month or whatever it is, like it sucks. Every single time it feels like the first time of like going to wrestling school where it's the worst. And also then your body is more susceptible to getting injured because you're not used to that weird getting slammed or weird movements or whatever it is. So I'd prefer to wrestle like at least once a week, like whether it be a just, dark match or whatever, like a true dark match where it's not filmed, just let me go out there for the crowd, like do something. So that way, if you need me for TV, like I'm fine, I'm ready to go. And then it's not like, oh shit, I haven't wrestled in 3 months. All of a sudden I have to wrestle. I'm not in ring shape anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a wrestling ring near where I live at all. So
that's why you've been taking a lot of indie bookings.
yes, which is just keeps me sharp. It keeps me, I don't want to say creative because there is still some like creative lull in indies because you're not doing storylines generally. So like it is just more so matches. So I have to have my creativity outlet be the promos that I do leading up to those. And then figuring out ways to do the match different and have fun with the crowd and try to make them participate and everything. But yeah, that's why I do like 2 to 3 a week, like so I can stay in ring shape and not, knock on wood, get injured.
Well, fans were starting to wonder if you were even still with AEW.
Well, no, for a long time I was there. I just wasn't doing anything, which like, if you don't have anything for me, that's fine. But I feel like we need to find something for
so
me.
you'd
Like
still be backstage?
for some of that, yes. Not for all of 2024. At some point you can just stay home. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. Cause I appreciate that. Cause then I'm not just getting brought out to like whatever. And then they were letting me do the indies and doing the conventions. And it just helps me again, stay sharp, which is in turn for them. And also still, I always looked at that as I'm still representing the company then in a way, like because I'm on these shows. So that's better than me just not being seen on the show. Like I'm still at a convention, like with Sting or whatever, taking pictures with Sting and posting pictures with Sting, like doing that. And like, all I can say was when people were like, oh, where are you at? When are you coming back? And I go, I don't know. You should ask because, the more people are vocal, maybe the more there's the chance of like, oh, I got something.
Well, it must have worked.
Yeah.
You came back at Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yeah.
And there was a big reaction.
Seemed like there was a big reaction. So now it's kind of seeing where that's going to go, what's going to happen. Figuring out still. But I would like to be, presented on TV because I think the character is for TV.
Absolutely.
Like, I think the top seller list for the last 4 years or whatever, like of, sales on TV or not on TV, like it's always top 3 or top 4. I think it's always top 3.
You were top 3 this year.
Top 3 this year for sure. I think
and it was 3. Sting, Will Ospreay, and you.
Yes.
Pretty impressive for a guy who didn't have a TV match all year.
Last year, I think was CM Punk, MJF, me.
Pepsi Phil?
I believe so. And then I think the year before that was maybe I was number 1. I don't remember, but regardless, I feel like that should translate into television time just based off of
very marketable
marketability. Like I've had this, like, I don't know. We definitely didn't get into this the last time. But where I know there's a certain aspect of, or a certain section of fans where they go, well, we like the constant PWG style matches where that's what they like. So they don't necessarily like the Danhausen thing. And I'm like, that's fine. Wrestling is a variety show for everybody. It is for children. It is for teenagers. It is for adults. It is for the older people. And like, I find a lot of like, I would say middle-aged people, kids, and older people like me. So there's still that some section of like those people, like it's obviously everybody. There's a mix of everybody. Like those are like the 3, like my age group, and then older people who liked stuff like Legion of Doom and like the characters like from the 80s, they love me. Like whenever I see legends at the conventions, it's always my favorite because it's like you see someone like Jimmy Hart and he goes, I love you, baby. Like, it's just people like him. Like it's always cool to see, or Demolition, like those guys get it. So that's always like a nice reminder of like what, The Godfather. I always see him every single time. He's super cool with me.
Oh yeah.
Like
that guy loves life.
He loves it.
It's
like
the best.
He's great.
He is. Charles, just this huge personality.
Yeah, I was going to call him Papa Shango, and I was like, more people might know as Godfather, but Papa Shango, Godfather.
Well, it depends what day you go to the convention,
This
right?
is true, yeah.
He
I got
goes
him
as
on both days.
Godfather one day, Papa Shango the next.
But
amazing.
It's just, it's one of those things where I go, I understand I'm not for everybody, but also like I'm a benefit to a show because I have a lot of people who do not like wrestling like me. and they buy merchandise and they will buy tickets to come to the shows to see me still. And then in turn, my whole idea with the Danhausen character was always, oh, well, if you like the weird thing I'm doing, that'll get you to watch the wrestling show. And then you'll watch a Will Ospreay or, something like that. And you'll go, oh, I didn't know this was on here. Or, something super athletic where they go, oh, wow, I didn't realize that this was going to be on the show. Or like a Powerhouse Hobbs, you go, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's what we can all be doing. Cause like, obviously a Powerhouse Hobbs is not me, is not a Will Ospreay. Like we all bring something different to that table.
Wrestling is a buffet.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm not going to eat everything at the buffet, but that's fine.
Me neither. And I'll take the things from the buffet that I like the
that
most.
I enjoy.
Yes.
And then,
but the other things are still options there for
everyone else.
Exactly.
And that's all that is. So like, it's just one of those things where you just have to kind of take it. And you're just like, okay, yes, this group of people does not like me. They don't think I should be on the show with people. That's fine because they're objectively wrong. Everybody has a spot on the show and everybody plays a part on the show.
How do you deal with that criticism?
I try to not, I'm like everybody and I see some of it here and there, but like, I try to purposely, like, I don't, what is it called?
Oh, when
we seek your vanity searching.
Yes.
No. The For You tab shows me that plenty. Where it goes, oh, your name is in this. This person thinks you suck. You want to see this. And I go, great. Thank you. But yeah, no. I don't do the vanity searching thing, but like you just happen to see it, especially like on a day where I come back and then you got a bunch of people who are excited. Like for every 100 people that are excited, you'll get the one person who goes, I wish he never came back. And you go, well, that's the one I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but I think it's just human nature.
That's just the way we are.
Yeah. That's what sticks with you. And then it's just one of those things, kind of like when I said waking up and having to put makeup on like at 8 a.m, I go, this sucks. And I go, well, I'm not waking up at 5 to go do a 12-hour shift. That's going to be really rough.
Yeah. You're not digging ditches,
No. So like it is what it is. It comes with the job. It's fine. It just kind of makes me appreciate the fans that do like love me even more.
Yeah.
Which I think is how you have to just deal with that.
When we did our last interview, it was so great because we were able to dive into like who you are and how you created the character and all of that. There was a handful of people that were like, well, why did he break kayfabe? Why is he out of character?
And it's like, well, what are you going to do? Like we live in a world, I do it probably more than most people.
Stay in character.
Yeah. And then every once in a while, I think it's important to do something like this to remind people, oh, no, this is a real person. Just every once in a while. Like I don't do it constantly. I don't do it weekly. Like we did the one 4 years ago.
Yeah. And you did one with Conan.
I did the Conan. Yeah. Someone was like, why didn't you do the makeup? I was like, because I'm not blowing that by showing up in makeup and not telling them. Cause that's how that would have had to go.
Oh, really?
Well, because they did a screening process before, which I didn't know that's what it was. Where I met with one of the producers and they didn't tell me what it was for. And then they had told me like the day before, like, you're going to be on Zoom with Conan. And I was like, oh, well, I could show up in character, but like also that risks getting kicked off. And them going, we didn't agree to this. This is weird. Like, so I was just like, no. I will just be me. And then hopefully I'll get another opportunity with him at some point to do a skit or something with Conan.
I think it gives a greater appreciation for what you do when you're in the ring.
Hopefully.
Absolutely. Because if I've interviewed Adam Sandler a bunch of times. I interviewed Adam Sandler. I didn't interview Happy Gilmore.
No.
Or the character from Big Daddy or whatever his guy from Uncut Gems, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I just saw that for the first time this year.
Man.
Or last year, sorry.
You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was that. It was a good time.
It's just funny how wrestling sometimes operates in that world.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times doesn't operate in that world. And the rules don't always apply.
Well, no, but you got like, which I noticed we're not in the Undertaker's gym to do this interview. I was very disappointed.
Man, his gym's incredible.
Yeah, like Undertaker's doing interviews, I don't know, out of character. Like he was the guy who like stuck to it for the longest time. And it's just like, it's a different time. Yeah. Like, what do you want from us? Like, it's the same thing with like, I learned this from Ethan Page. He was like, do not stay in character during selling merch. He goes, it just doesn't work. Don't do that. Like the only person I've seen it work for was MJF, who was just yelling at people.
But that's just,
that's a very like,
it's who he is.
Yes. That and like, it is a very rare thing that him just being in yelling at people constantly just worked out for him. Like if I was just being an annoying guy, like an annoying weird guy throughout the entire thing, people are not going to come up to me. They go, I don't want to deal with that. Because a lot of people also, I think, have anxiety. They don't want to be they want to talk to a person. That's how I look. I want to be an adult talking to an adult.
But this is the thing, you don't know. When you have a merch line, you don't know what you're getting with every single person.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got to take the wheel and you drive the ship.
Yes.
And
everyone is very different. So but everyone's generally very respectful and nice and polite. Like you get every once in a while, there's some people, but it's rare.
I thought it was a beautiful marriage of characters when you took what you do as Danhausen and Hook and put them together.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
So the first day I showed up, I think I was like, Hook, nice to meet you. I'm Danhausen. He said, I think he had told me he was a fan of mine, which was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, we have to get a photo. And then we took a photo together that first day that I was there. And it got like a crazy amount of likes, like at least for me, like at the time, like I think it got like 20 or 30,000 likes, like right away, like back then. And I think someone saw that and kind of went, ooh, maybe this could work. And I also think it humanized Hook a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's just, again, kind of just an ass beater. He's Taz's son. He's an ass beater.
Yeah.
And I think it gave a little bit of humanizing to him, which I think helps people connect with him. So like, I would love Hook. I would always team with Hook. Like, that'd be great. Like I always say, like, just put me with Hook again. Put me back with Hook.
No one saw that coming, I feel
No. And it seemed loved. And then it was just kind of, we were done with it. And I was like, we should just do more of it.
Yeah.
Because people liked it. And it wasn't like, I don't think it was done yet. So like, I would love to have HookHausen come back. I get asked constantly, hey, when's HookHausen coming back? Hey, are you going to team with Hook ever again? Like, and just online people too. Like, there's still people with like HookHausen stuff, and like, it just worked for whatever reason.
How do you come up with these names like Chris Judas, Pepsi Phil?
It's just little bits of like Chris Jericho has the Judas song, so he's Chris Judas. Pepsi Phil, he's got the Pepsi logo tattooed on him. So I think some people call him Phil, and I do at the time. He did not. It was like, I think it was a thing of like, people are like, oh, you don't call him Phil. Don't call her like whatever. Like, if you don't know him, don't call him Phil. And I was like, oh, he's Pepsi Phil. And I thought it was funny. So like, as an annoying idiot, like I'd call him Pepsi Phil. Trying to think of who else there was. Obviously the Ass Boys.
Yep.
Billy Ass. That one's self-explanatory. That's his last name. What other names was there? Now I'm blanking. But Rock the Dwayne Johnson.
Rock the Dwayne Johnson.
Which I swear, I don't know. It's in my head. It's some type of, was it the Berenstein Bears or what is the effect? The
Mandela effect.
Mandela effect. I swear someone on the news accidentally called him that. And I was at work and I just happened to, I went, huh? And I was like, did they just call him Rock the Dwayne Johnson? Like on accident, on air? And I can't confirm if that actually happened or not, because it was just one of those things that was there and gone. And I was like, well, I'm going to call him that.
Do you think The Rock saw any of your stuff?
He saw the what was it? One of the Zoa energy drink videos I did. Because I remember I posted it, and it was, I took a drink of it, and then we cut away, and then I had the sweater on, and I freaked out, and then I reached in my pocket, and I only had $7, and I screamed about being poor. I think I yelled, oh no.
You drank the original Zoa and you turned into original Rock.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what it was. And then I like looked at my phone. I was like, why do I have this many things? And then I clicked and I was like, oh, The Rock saw this. Or
like he retweeted it?
He retweeted it with a quote. And it was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was ha 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 ha. Because I think I said, oh, I need to get the PT Cruiser or something along those lines, because it was a shitty car that I think is a sports car. And I was like, oh. So, well, that happened, I guess. That's cool. Again, it's another person that I would have loved to, been able to do something with. Like, I think that would be funny. Just those characters who can, like, bounce back and forth with whoever in whatever situation, whether it be someone like The Rock or Conan O'Brien or Elvira. Like, that type of stuff is what interests me, and I think also connects to the mainstream media to then bring more eyes on wrestling.
And it exists outside of wrestling as well. Like, you can do so many things. What are the goals that you have outside of wrestling?
everything.
Hey, we're in Hollywood right now.
I know. So we had done the pitches for the cartoon with Ron Funches. Me and Ron had come up with a cartoon idea for the Danhausen character with his character as well. And that was a way to kind of explore like the powers of Danhausen that doesn't actually have on TV, but like thinks he has. So like, oh, he could really curse people in the show. He could really do everything the Undertaker does that he can't do in real life.
I don't know. The Undertaker can shoot electricity from his hands.
Yes, but Danhausen can't.
Yeah.
No, not the Undertaker can't do. It's just that things that Danhausen thinks he can do all the stuff the Undertaker can do, but he can do none of them. So yeah, we had pitched that. We had some pitch meetings, which was cool and interesting because that was a new world to me. Unfortunately, it didn't get picked up, but neither did Seinfeld right away. So I still have hope that a couple of years from now, we'll just get a call and go, hey, we want that cartoon. But yeah, I was going to explore like Danhausen as a demon in hell, and then he gets brought to Earth to experience human world and try to convert more people to come to hell. But like in turn, he's very nice. So we just start kind of infiltrating like, because I do all those YouTube videos where I do like normal human stuff, but as Danhausen. Yeah. And that was going to kind of be integrated into the show in making human connections and then going, oh, wait, these people aren't that bad type thing. There's that. So I'd still like to get a Danhausen cartoon. I think that would work because I think the character works again for children. Maybe not necessarily the hell stuff, but also Rocko's Modern Life existed. And that had heck in it.
Yeah.
So it could work.
It could totally work.
But yeah, I still like that stuff. I'd still love to do something with Conan, because he does that traveling show. I'd love to do just more. Like Elvira is on a goal. I think it might be retired as Elvira, though. I don't know if she does it anymore at all. Yeah, it would be cool to have like a children's book or something. Just more crossover things. More comic books. I did the DC cover for the Batman variant, which was awesome for New York Comic Con. I've done some Image Comics stuff. I've done heavy metal. Like I would like to do, Godzilla, things like that. Like that would be cool. Like all of that crossover stuff. Like, yes, let me do it. Let me go on these, like the Boulet brothers. They do the drag show where they have guest judges. It's like, let me do. My wife is a legitimate like burlesque dancer. She's like #1 in the world. Lulu La Duchess, you look her up, but she's won multiple awards and crowns and things like that. It's like, no, I can be involved in that world, especially in the horror version. Or like, what is it? The Food Network does all of those baking shows.
Yeah.
And then you judge stuff. Let Danhausen be on a Halloween episode. Well, I want to do a Treehouse of Horror. Like that type of stuff, like just on personal levels, like I would love John Carpenter to do a Danhausen theme song.
Oh,
just
man.
so it can say, like, I would love that to be like music by John Carpenter on my Titantron.
Yeah.
Like that would be awesome. Just things like that, like working with just people I look up to, like would be awesome.
What made you think to trademark your face makeup? Because I think you're the first wrestler.
I was the first.
You did it before Sting.
Yes, which was cool. But it helped him go, oh, I can do that. I don't think he said shit. I don't know if he swears.
Probably not.
He's the nicest guy on earth. Yeah, so we had trademarked my makeup. I think I'd seen something that looked very similar to mine that came after, and I went, maybe I should try to get this.
Another wrestler?
No.
Oh.
It was like, there was a Magic the Gathering card that I saw, and I was like, it's probably nothing. But it looks very much like I was getting tagged by like just fans on Twitter. And I was like, maybe I should try to get my makeup trademarked because who knows?
You went through gimmick attorney.
Yes. Mike Dawkins. Yeah.
Mike's the best.
So I got him to do that. And I think it was like kind of a pain in the ass, but then he got it done.
I feel like he can.
And then it was probably easier for Sting. Because we were able to get mine, he knew how to do it and probably how to word things. And he was able to go, hey, we can just get yours done now. So, because I think mine also was probably technically easier because Sting's probably also had the crow thing going with it, where that could have been an argument.
Oh, sure.
So it was probably an easier way to navigate through that, I would guess.
You told me off camera you've checked off like 5 or 6 things from the wrestling bucket list.
Yeah.
What are those things?
Ooh.
We probably already talked about some of them, but
probably.
I just wanted to know specifically what they are.
So I did Little Caesars Arena. That was cool. This year I did Japan. Or sorry, I keep saying this year. It's last year.
We're like a week into the new
Yeah,
year.
you have to forgive me.
Little Caesars Arena in Detroit?
Detroit, but
Yeah.
it was Joe Louis Arena originally.
Yeah.
But that was like, that's where I saw my first wrestler. It was Kobo, and that was where I first saw my first WWF show, which is like a house show before Mania 97, I think. So like literally everybody was on that show. It was like Kane, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, DX, The Rock. Like,
Oh my gosh.
that was that show. I think LOD was on it. Mankind was probably on it. It was legitimately everybody from the Attitude Era. And then the next show would have been Joe Louis, and it was Kurt Angle's debut. I want to say X-Pac versus Kane.
Like when he debuted against Taz?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was his first match. And then it was the one where Stone Cold got hit by Rikishi by the car.
He did it for The Rock.
He did it for The Rock.
I did it for The Rock.
Yeah. But so that was cool to do my childhood arena.
Yeah.
That was where I teamed with FTR and we fought, I think, Max Caster and the Ass Boys. So that was cool because all of my friends who'd come to my 30 people independent wrestling shows in abandoned Targets in Detroit now got to come to Detroit to see me at Joe Louis Arena, and I could see all of them. Like, obviously I was able to get a bunch of them in the front row, like my mom, my dad, my sister, everybody. And then my best friends. So that was really, really cool. And I got to come out and do the post show. Tony let me come out and like talk to everybody, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And trying to think of what else we've done. Oh, I did Ireland, which was cool. England, Wales, Hawaii, Alaska last year.
Wow.
So like, it's cool doing everywhere, but like those were some bucket list, like hard to get places sort of. I would love to go back to Japan. Getting an action figure. Sorry, I'm trailing off and just doing whatever.
This is great.
Action figure, obviously, I think we've probably talked about, I collect action figures like Ego. It's actually his fault.
Who has a bigger collection?
Me for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, he did. I remember I texted him a photo of like 5 Spider-Man figures and I went, you did this. This was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago at this point. And then he just was like, ha, 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 ha. And now it's just, I have all of them. And I was like, I was going to keep it. I was like, I'll keep it to Spider-Man. And then that doesn't work. Because then you go, well, I got to get this and then this and then this. And now I have life-size statues in my house of aliens. I've got the Xenomorph. It's like 8-9 feet tall.
I love that when we get the money to be able to buy our childhood
Just stupid things.
items we want
That's
to buy.
what I do. Like with the comic books and everything, I just buy stuff that I wanted as a kid, but like my parents maybe couldn't afford, or like I couldn't afford, or just didn't need at the time. I don't need them now, but
I've started dabbling into wrestling cards.
yeah,
So I have a few of those. I've spent far too much money on those.
It's in the comics, like I get the slabbed ones because I'm bad at taking care of stuff. So like that's a way for me to not destroy it and just set it somewhere and then ruin a super expensive comic book or whatever.
I bought a graded Back to the Future VHS.
Yeah. See, like,
Well, actually, I've number 2 and 3 because number 1, if you buy the 1986 original VHS, it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And like some comics are like that, or like these life-size statues might be. I remember I surprised my wife with the Xenomorph when we were getting the house redone.
Like you surprised her, like, this is for you,
No,
honey?
no.
Like,
it was just in my office, and she was showing someone our house, like, before it was fully done, but she just went in the room and she's like, whoa. And it's the biggest thing on earth. So yeah, there's just, stuff like that. I've got life-size Predator heads. I don't have a statue yet, but I'm looking. I want the life-size Simpsons from the movies. I would like to put them downstairs because I'm building a theater.
There's a place actually not far from where
I
live.
know. It's on eBay all of the time. I'm assuming it's the same place.
It's like an hour away.
Yeah.
You've got time before your flight.
I have no time to get this back, though. I'd have to drive
it.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yes.
There was a time.
You know the place I'm talking about?
I do. I'm pretty sure I do. It's like Hollywood Collectibles or something
like a movie
that.
warehouse.
Yes. I look at all their stuff all the time.
I almost bought a dinosaur from them.
There was a life-size T-Rex head from Jurassic Park at Comic-Con last year. And I was like, how much is this? It was like $20,000.
Oh, what? Oh.
It's cool, though.
You ever walk through now we're really going off on a tangent here.
That's fine.
You ever walk through the Las Vegas airport and they've got the big Megalodon Jaws?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen it.
As you're heading towards like baggage claim, there's a life-size Megalodon Jaws and it's $1 million.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. Yeah. I've tried to cool it on the collectibles.
You were very rich.
I am, but I still also would like to remain very rich and not just blow all of my money on things. But I do buy things that kind of appreciate and value. So
what's the dream match for you that hasn't happened yet?
Ooh. So like, trying to think immediate. I think a 6-man with me and the Outrunners would be fun. I think those guys, I could do something fun with those guys. I would still really, really like for the Ass Boys to fully embrace the ass and team with me. I would love to do something with Timeless Tony Storm. I know she's retired.
Well,
but who knows?
yeah.
I think that would have been a fun, because I used to do the 1920s Danhausen, like black and white version for old wrestling. And I was like, that could easily just either, whether it's me teaming with someone else to fight her and someone else, or me teaming with her to fight someone. Yeah, I really, really wish I could have teamed with Darby and Sting. It almost happened. I think there was like a hint of it, and then it just didn't.
How close were you to making that happen?
I think that could have potentially been an option against Max Caster and the Gun Club. And then we did FTR, which was great. But I think also Sting, I think, is harder to get to just wrestle on a show. Like, I think they were saving him more for like pay-per-view stuff. But like Sting was always like, I would love to do something. I'm like, oh, cool. And you just say it, and I was like, that's great. Like, you're Sting. So like, that's incredible. So yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. Brody King. I don't want to get beat up by him, but I think if they were to do what they would do those randomized tag team tournaments.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. You could do Very Violent, Very Evil just for like a few weeks. House of Black could always be fun with Danhausen, because we have the Very Evil Danhausen, which I created to be a Cactus Jack. Like, that's the Cactus Jack to the Dude Love Mankind in my mind. Like,
yeah, when you came out as that, it was like, oh, this is dark.
It's also a way to do a more serious match if need be, which you could do with me anyway. Like, I always make, like, there's the Taka Michinoku versus Triple H match. Like, there's that. They just put out the Tajiri Triple H match from Japan, I believe, on the Vault or whatever it is. But like, that stuff can work. Like, it just needs to be built to. But yeah, I created that to be a Cactus Jack. So like, you can have those moments if need be. Like, I could theoretically team with like House of Black in a serious match. Like, but I could also team with House of Black in a not serious version where it's me being shitty evil and they are real evil. So like, that could work. Yeah, no, Brody King is one of my best friends, like in wrestling, like and out of wrestling. So like, I would love to do something with him, whether it be unfortunately getting beaten up by him but theoretically teaming with him would be great.
There's a lot of matches out there you still haven't had yet.
There's so many. I'm trying to think of who else. Sorry, I'm going off on there are so many good people. Like, Pac is awesome. Claudio's awesome. Like, me getting swung as Danhausen, I think would be hilarious. Just screaming. Yeah, there's so much. And then like the Bullet Club Gold would be, I was going to say gold, but I didn't mean to say it that way. Just because it has the Ass Boys. Juice Robinson is such a character. And then Jay White plays a great straight guy, but also, again, he's one of those guys who does comedy very well, but he knows when to do it.
Yeah. Since people have been staring at these tattoos for the last hour, let's talk about some of these. What do we got?
There's an alien.
Alien? Hellraiser? No, what?
No. There's just an alien from...
Okay, so you got Alien?
I got to show this to Lance Henriksen
from
Aliens. He plays Bishop. He was very nice. I drove him around in a little cart. Yeah, I got the Forbidden Donut from The Simpsons.
I've got Donut.
Doctor Doom. I've got Itchy and Scratchy.
Oh, man.
The classic. There's Nosferatu. There's Creature. I'm trying to think of what else. Weird Thing. Yeah.
I love The Simpsons as much as you love The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That was my go-to show. And like, when you're flipping channels before the guide, you're flipping channels.
Yeah.
What else am I going to watch?
5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Simpsons is on.
Absolutely.
I don't know what time it would have been here. Or you were in Canada,
I grew up in
so
Toronto.
probably the same thing.
It was.
5 to 6.
I would wait because I'd get home from school at like 3:45.
Yeah.
Watch some throwaway TV until 5 o'clock.
And then The Simpsons hour block.
Simpsons.
Every single time.
I quote The Simpsons all the time.
I do it without realizing it. And then if someone says, do a quote from The Simpsons, I go, cromulent usually comes to my head immediately.
Perfectly cromulent word. It engages us all.
Yeah.
We would do all you can eat wings when I was growing up in Pickering, Ontario at Shagwell's, which I don't think exists anymore. And we would always come back to, do these sound like the actions of a man who's had all he could eat?
There's so many good ones. That's how I became friends with my friend David and Nick, was just Simpsons quotes. He found out I liked The Simpsons, and then we would just, I think, text them back and forth at work. and then eventually it just turned into like a full
So good.
full friendship.
I'm also a communication studies major, so there's that quote in The Simpsons where it's like, I know, it's joke degree. Well, kind of.
You're communicating me with right now. You seem pretty successful at it.
Good to be able to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, you too.
And I'm going to wrap this up with a question. I didn't ask it. I wasn't doing it at that point in time. Gratitude's such a big part of my life.
Yeah.
So what are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
Ooh, my wife for like being okay with me being gone. Not all of the time. I'm generally home 4-ish days a week, which is kind of a lot. But sometimes I'm gone for like, she'd be like, no. If you need to go do something that's very important, like, please go do it. That's great. Because she was like very fortunate to where I'm successful enough at this now to where I can just be like, hey, like if you don't want to take a show, like a burlesque show, like you're just taking it to make extra money or whatever, like you don't have to. Like you could just do the ones that are cool to you. Or like if you want to go like do Sweden, she's done Europe and stuff for that. Like, so she's able to have the freedom to just do whatever she wants now, which is what I think is great. Especially creatively, because she sews, she makes costumes and everything also. So like she has time to do all of that if she wants to. If she wants to do all these shows still, she can. But if she wants to just do cool ass festivals or like specific shows, great. You can do that. If you want to go to Sweden and do some shows or England or wherever, awesome. So I'm grateful for her for just kind of like propelling me up, and I don't want to say allowing me to do that because it's not like you're allowed to do that. It's just like pushing me forward.
Yeah.
So that
Like being like your cheerleader.
yes.
Yeah.
Supporting.
Yeah.
My best friends, they help me film everything, my shitty films. But that's the charm of it. But they've been with me, like I said, since I worked in a movie theater in 2008, I think. So like I like to keep those with me who've been supporting me. Like I like to bring them up with me as much as I possibly can. Like I can't get them on TV probably, but like I can do all my other extra stuff with them still and make them on-screen characters for my YouTube show still and all of that, which I know like the fans who like really, really watch my stuff, like they love that. So like I like to bring everyone up with me who's been supporting me and just friends with me. Like I've been friends with like Ethan Page forever. So like it doesn't matter if he's in another company. Like I'm always going to be friends with him. Like, you know what I mean? Like that I think that separates a lot of people. Like, because I know some people just be like, I can't really, talk to you anymore. It's like, why?
I don't feel like we're in that era of wrestling anymore.
Hopefully it's less, but like, I don't like that. I think it's just be friends with who you're friends with.
Yeah.
And like stick with them and like have their back. They'll have your back. It's great. So I'm grateful for all of my friends and all of them who've been helping me like come up and everything. And then obviously my family, like this is in no particular order, I guess. Cause then I feel bad that I put someone here and here and here. But obviously like I would not have this character without like my mom and my dad, like just, encouraging me to read comic books, or my dad showing me horror movies, or like dressing me up for Halloween, or my mom used to paint, like all of that stuff, like watching cartoons with them, like showing me Disney movies, which led to whatever, like voices and things like that. So yeah, it's probably very generic 3 answers, but also
great.
What are you going to do? That's the answers.
Before we wrap it up, can you do the thing?
The voice?
Do the thing.
The curse? What? I didn't do it.
I mean, what if we took off no, we can't take off the CGI. It's too expensive.
Very nice, very evil.
There it is.
That one?
So cool.
Now I'm weird. Now I'm all weird on this.
No, thanks, man.
Thank you.